And we are back with match number 2 of the day. We are on week 9 of Hearthstone Global Games, and Raven, of course, joining me for this one. It's going to be Lorinda. We have swapped out Sottle and going Lorinda for this one. It's going to be Sweden versus Switzerland. And it's going to be a cool one, I think. There's some cool stuff coming out of Switzerland, and also always great to see Sweden just play overall. So we can check out the group and see how it looks for now. This one still has a lot going on. We've got a second match from this group coming up today, which is going to be Brazil versus Bulgaria, and they're placed 1 and 2, as you can see in the group. And then, towards the bottom, we have the Sweden versus Switzerland match right now. Switzerland currently 0-3.
Yeah, Sweden, one of those teams that everyone thought was going to stomp through this tournament, but they're struggling. They need to win this. They're in good position, if you like. They're playing one of the weaker teams in the group, but they do need to make sure they get this win in today, and this group will look a lot more resolved by the end of the day, one way or another.
Yeah, a little bit more well-rounded as we check out the teams that are actually going to be playing in the rosters. It's going to be Powder, Oskaka, Orange and Show, a star-studded lineup for Sweden, and then Bozo, Dark, Ray and Pekka for Switzerland.
One of the shortest named lineups in all of Hearthstone Global Games.
I like it. Short and sweet.
Powder, Oskaka, Orange and Show need not much introduction, but I believe Switzerland have had some good news of their own for some of the players.
Yeah, so Dark and Ray have actually got together on sort of joined a team, which is Team Silent, I believe, which is they pretty much joined the team from them playing together in this global games team for Team Switzerland. There we go. That was a mouthful. So, by getting together for global games, we've seen a lot of players. We just heard from Ginger. It was fun practicing, meeting new players in the community across the world. And then these two players have actually started to form a team from this. So it'd be cool to see, the future of these players, Dark and Ray, and see what they can do for themselves for Team Switzerland, but more importantly, going forward for their team in the rest of Hearthstone.
Yeah, it's interesting how the global games is just bringing players together, which was partly the intention of it as well, to give people a chance to shine, or if they're already shining, to lead. And we're getting content creators and players together, and these sort of things are happening. People are making friends, people are improving the standard of their play as well.
Yeah, I've been seeing that throughout the course of the tournament. We can check out how these lineups look. It is, of course, a team best of 5, each player bringing 2 unique classes to the series, and they can pick one of their 2 to go up against one of the opponent's 2 opposite them. We're going to be kicking off with Orange versus Ray. It's going to be Orange on a Druid or Mage versus Ray on the Priest or Hunter.
Yeah, Orange, the only player from the Swedish team who missed out on HCT qualifiers last time around by 1 point. So see if he can redeem himself and help put Sweden through to the next round. Ray, on the other hand, he is also a man in form.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he recently hit #1 legend first in the whole of EU.
Oh, that's pretty hard.
Yeah, mid-range Paladin, apparently. So yeah, let's...
Them Paladins dodging the crabs, but he's not going to be playing Paladin today. It's going to be the Druid from Orange versus the Hunter from Ray, and more we've seen Hunter being picked. At least this week, it's been picked fairly often. Interested to see how the matchup goes versus Druid, sorry. And the build of the Hunter itself, whether it's a more aggressive list we've seen similar to Kranich's lineup, or whether it's more of the mid-rangey style list that we've just seen it from the previous team.
Yeah, Hunter's an interesting one. We see about a third of the teams leave it in that bottom 9 in the ace match where they hope not to play it. It's like the 8th best class, ahead of Warlock, behind everything else. But like you say, this weekend we've seen quite a lot of it. And Sweden did the Druid. They're 0-2 with Druid in this event so far. So they've got to get their first win with it if they're going to get a good lead here.
Yeah, it feels weird as well, Druid being not too good a score. I suppose it depends what their matchups were at the time. But Druid is definitely one of the most powerful classes at the moment. We've seen a lot of aggro Druid rise to the top, and then Jade Druid is that control killer deck. It's very strong as well. We are going to see it is going to be aggro Druid from Orange.
Oh, no.
And an aggressive list from Ray as well. Ray, Rocket Explosive Trap, Fiery Bat, and Animal Companion.
Yeah, and I'm knowing because obviously Genzo the Shark.
Why no?
Take us away with Genzo the Shark. Explain the card to us. I know you love him.
Well, it's just a great card. If it goes face, it draws until you have 3 cards. For both players, though, so it is a consideration. We did see yesterday one of the players actually not attack with it because it would have given their opponent outs.
Right.
With their additional card draws, they only had 1 card in hand at the time. But yeah, Genzo's just a nice card to refill the hand. A lot of the time, aggro Druid does run dry a little bit and might run low on resources. But on the other side, though, this explosive trap, it's going to be very interesting to see if Ray keeps this or not as a defensive tool versus a lot of the what's normally around 2 health minions Aggro Druid kicks off the game with.
Yeah, I'm going to say, if you're going to play Explosive Trap in your deck, it seems like this is what you want to run into, either this or Pirates. But he does choose to try and get the board control more early on. And there's a cat trick as well, so maybe this is just another iteration of the Kranich deck that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it looks extremely similar so far. Cat trick and tracking as well. Kranich was running 2 track-ins in the list just to help fish for those key cards at key moments, really. You know, it's not really a card you want to play on turn 1 or even turn 2, but it's really a card you want to go on into turns 5 and so, where Hunter normally dries up a little bit in terms of resources, and then you can almost cherry-pick the answer you need for any given moment.
Interesting here for Sweden, they're running into one of these problems that we've seen more and more with the Aggro Druid, in that it's got very slightly more heavy over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and we are seeing more teams just sometimes pick up these slightly awkward draws because of it.
Yeah, there was a point with Aggro Druid where you were almost guaranteed to be able to play something every single turn for the first 3-4 turns because the curve was so low. But Tar Creepers, Druid of the Claws, Living Mana, Hydras, there's normally at least 4 to 5 to even 6 of those cards in any given Druid deck at the moment.
That's just what happens when you try to push it a little bit to win mirror matches, and in general, if you push a deck, then sometimes you just push a little far. And I'm wondering if Druid is about to reach that point. I don't think it's there yet, but if people get a little bit more greedy with it, I think their deck might just collapse.
Yeah, I think the only benefit here is like how much greedy can you get with Aggro Druid, because a lot of the higher mana minions aren't that aggressive. So, there's not much else you could really go for. We've seen Swipe dip in and out of the list as well, just for extra reach, but to the extent here, Orange is actually going to coin out Hero Power to kill off this Fiery Bat and try and stem the tide from Team Switzerland's Hunter here.
Yeah, preserving their Innovate and trusting the deck to do what it should do and get some aggressive stuff on the next card. Must, of course, also point something out that I've completely forgotten, so carry on.
Okay.
It happens when you get old.
Okay, I'm getting close to old myself. But yeah, Flare in the hand now from Ray. So in this matchup, only going to cycle a card when he runs a little bit dry. So just 2 mana replace the card. Not good, but definitely not the end of the world either. It's better than playing an Eater of Secrets in Hunter, for example. You would much rather have the cheaper option to cycle than anything else. But no, Team Sweden and Orange still just having those Tar Creepers and now Mark of the Lowest. Good, innovate a Tar Creeper out. But you don't really want a Mark of Low, it's just 1 minion either. Yeah,
and there's a good chance that this is a cat trick as well. Not just because we know it is, but because of how the deck functions. There's a reasonable chance there'll be 2 cat tricks and probably just 2 other secrets in the deck total. So it's 50-50, plus they've actually chosen to play it right now. So
yeah, I mean, you wouldn't normally go for Explosive Trap on this board because Hero Power would just clean it up. And we might even see a Hero Power from Orange for that specific point, just to proc it if not. And then Kranich was running a Snake and 2 cat tricks, so yeah, more than likely it's going to be a cat trick at this point. I don't think you ever punish for just Hero Power in here.
No, what I was going to say, by the way, a minute ago, is just the Murlocs are the things that have come out of this deck, and they were often fairly inefficient anyway. You just draw a War Leader, and if you didn't get the Finger stuff, was a bit of a mess. The original idea was to innovate out one of the win cards, which is either the Fledgling or the Finger. But now we're going for a little bit more consistency rather than that explosive, can you get lucky?
Yeah, I think it is interesting though, because I spoke to Firebat quite a lot. He's got a 2nd Flare in the deck.
What Firebat has?
No, this is different.
Okay.
I've changed my topic of conversation. And a Wolf Rider. Oh my god, Rob Wing will be proud.
He'll be enjoying this, no doubt. He's watching this ready for tomorrow.
Literally Smoke Hunter. Just hilarious and great.
I like the way you divert that onto Rob when, you love this yourself.
Rob specifically loves Wolf Rider, though.
Okay.
Whereas I can I'll leave Wolf Rider. Just put Leroy in instead. But yeah, what I was saying earlier is Firebat in terms of Finger actually just thinks it's the better option because the increased win rate you get by having Finger in your deck is actually worth the whiffs sometimes. But yeah. Yeah,
I mean, that's the percentage-based meme is what it's all about. It's how much do you gain from running a card that, unfortunately, it's called a high roll card. That's the common parlance for those sort of cards. But actually, it is just a way of boosting your percentages if it wins you enough games. And you're saying that Firebat says that. And I'm not going to argue with Firebat. Well, not yet, anyway.
I wonder if you ever coin Living Mana here. Innovate, sorry.
Just to do something?
Well, you get 3 2/2s versus Hunter. It's definitely not the end of the world. You have a 2nd Living Mana in hand anyway. and then you can follow up with buffs or Tar Creepers. Like, I don't know. Don't think it'll be too terrible. It's just going to go with a Tar Creeper, though, and just hold on a little bit.
Well, he was going to just hold on a little bit, but Houndmaster is so brutal when it has a target going on its turn 4, and that's exactly what's going to happen here, unless we're missing something really obvious. It's going to be a really nice board suddenly.
Yeah, Tar Creeper feels good. It's a little bit weak to a...
Sorry, I just realised Switzerland don't know what they're up against. They probably think this is Jade Druid.
Maybe, that's true. Because the Houndmaster becomes a little bit weak to swipe.
Right.
So there is a consideration there. But to be honest, if you're not killing this Tar Creeper now, when are you killing it? It's going to be the same problem next turn or the turn after. With this, you put the most power on the board. Flare doesn't do much. Explosive Trap doesn't do much. So Houndmaster is, one, just decent anyway, but also just the forced play.
But that would be like why they were considering it, because this is bad to like Wrath hero power.
It's true.
And stuff like that. They've got no reason to believe in the world that this is an aggro Druid deck.
For Wrath hero power, they do have Cat Trick live.
Sure.
So they will gain a 4/2 anyway. So still not too bad. If anything, you wouldn't even mind a spell coming out soon.
This might be, I mean, I've been saying how I think the Druid deck has got a little bit heavy, but this might be the worst aggro Druid hand I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's kind of why I would have liked to have seen Living Mana a little bit earlier. Just instead of this board now, the Razor Maul would be on more health.
Right.
Only one more health, though. And then you'd have 2/2/2s down.
Yeah, and you could have forced out some bits and pieces that just had to be played. Yeah. Maybe remove and unleash or something like that from the opponent's hand, and then just get on with your life while you're trying to draw cards that aren't completely terrible.
Problem would be, of course, is that the cat from Cat Trick, Cat in the Hat, would actually be down.
Yeah.
So there'd be an additional 4/2 on the board, but still.
Cat Trick's just a really good card, right? It's just really hard to find the place where it belongs synergetically in a deck. Like, it's a card that when it was first released, everyone's like, oh my goodness, this card's completely bust.
Yeah, one of the problems is a lot of decks either play a lot of spells or barely any.
Right.
So you look at Pirate Warrior, you look at Evolve Shaman. They don't really play that many spells when you look at it. It's a lot of just minion weapons and, yes, Evolve. But if, you get a 4/2 when they doppelgangster Evolve, then...
Well done.
Yeah.
6 stats versus 28 or something.
Exactly, yeah. 28 or something, exactly. So yeah, Cat Trick's not that great versus some decks, but great versus others. Whereas when you are picking into only a choice of 2, you can weigh up how good these Cat Tricks are. Flare into Animal Companion, not too bad.
The Animal Companion seems good. There's the Huffer. I noticed that Leok, by the way, it's the caster that gives you a +1, but no one ever really wants to get Leok, do they?
No, Leok's just always there when you don't want him.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think as well.
So I'm just waiting until you install Cast Hunter now and you can rip on Huffer.
Well, Sottle's rule of ripping on Raven is it doesn't matter where he is anyway.
That's true.
Going face there because, again, they probably now have an idea what they're up against with that Crawler, but it's still not really set in stone what they're doing.
No, and this Living Mana is only really going to help Ray. It's going to create a Cat in the Hat. Then Ray can just explosive trap hero power.
Would that be lethal if they play Living Mana?
Yeah, I think it would actually.
Just actually straight up be lethal. This is the it wouldn't because they're trading to the Huffer, of course, but this is just a mess. Sweden just not getting the rub of the green at all on this one. Just looking for any way to survive at all. I think they...
I mean, it'll be roundabout lethal anyway, right?
Yeah, they just have to live in Mana, right?
If they live in Mana, you trade into Huffer.
Yep.
But then the turn after you go face, you play Explosive Trap.
Yeah.
Then either you do 2 damage with Explosive Trap and clear the board, or the tokens live and then you just Living Mana. You unleash the Hounds and kill command and win.
Yeah.
But double mark of the Lotus may change that.
Actually, yeah. There is actually just straight up 6 mana available, so Unleash and Kill Command will do it.
Yeah, it's just going to be game.
It's just this pause while we're both looking at Ray. What
I was just looking at what the potential setup from Orange was going to be, and even if Orange didn't die this turn, it would have been very, very difficult indeed because he didn't have lethal. He just used Innovate, Mark the Lotus, Mark the Lotus. He only has 1 mana left the turn after, so there's not a lot he could have done. But it's going to be Ray taking the first game for Switzerland and the Switzerland versus Sweden matchup with the Hunter again. So Hunter, as you said, probably 8th in terms of current tier list, but a lot of players are bringing various lists and getting wins with it so far. So we'll see if it improves.
Yeah, and you can see what it means to Ray there as well. Obviously, if you get #1 legend, or get first legend, plus your team is struggling, guy that nobody's really heard of much before this event, it's a chance to make your name. These guys, even though they're 0-3, they still want to win these matches, just to start building their team brand up by the sounds of it, build up their national brand and build up their personal brand as well.
Yeah, we can see what the next matchup is going to be. It's going to be Powder versus Bozo, and it is going to be Paladin versus Paladin. So we may have to get comfortable for this one, Lorinda, as it could go on for a while.
Yeah, we've seen some long matches involving Paladin. We've also seen some very short matches involving Paladin. It may just straight up be aggro versus aggro. It still goes on longer than you'd expect because aggro decks do have that start where they mess around and try and get hold of the board. But yeah, there's a good chance this will go for a while if they're both likely mid-range-ish.
Yeah, there's a chance that you can actually just snowball with Murlocs. We saw some matchups where Paladin just draws the top end of its curve and not the early section. So it means that, you know, one person can get ahead very, very quickly indeed. We'll see what the lists look like when we get into the game. We should be going in pretty soon. But yeah, these Team Sweden really want to get a win under their belt here and actually try and get ahead in this matchup because at the moment, being 0-1 down versus Switzerland, Switzerland are already 0-3 in groups, which means they are not going to be making it through, but Sweden is still in contention, at least at the moment.
Yeah, again, if it's Murlocs versus Murlocs as well, you really don't want that coin. Because you can just sometimes snowball with the 1-3 into Rockpool Hunter into just snowball the game. But yes, Sweden... it's a real mess, right? If they lose, they're not out for sure. This group has a lot of interplay because everybody's like won 2 games. Everybody's still got another game to play that's relevant. And it all just depends who wins those games. Far more than any of the other groups. But obviously winning is huge and losing is huge.
Both huge. See the players getting ready. Both look pretty chill. Powder.
Powder's always chill.
He is. I love Powder.
He's been around forever. Obviously, he was a part of the UK scene for a while, lived in London for some time, came over, took some insomnias, went home.
Yeah, just came over, won some tournaments, then left. So pretty mean, to be honest. So, yeah.
Pretty selfish.
Yeah, but this Paladin Mirror, there's been a few players playing like control lists as well, you know, playing in the Zoth list. Or we saw from, you know, the likes of Styrodachi playing more like just actual control lists and saying, well, you know, I'm just going to outlast you. We saw a lot from the Americas players, Muzzy, Amnesiac as well. That practice group actually just brought control Paladin with no true win condition, and they still managed to get some wins under their belt with it. So we'll see what happens here as we go into this game. Saw the lineups, see the players, see the cards. Murloc, Tidecaller, and Valfin Inquisitor for Powder at the moment in his opening hand. So he looks like he's got the benefit of the aggression here if he chooses to keep hold of them, and I don't see why not for now.
Yeah, I mean, just completely impossible to read into what the decks are going to be at this point, but what we can say is that Sweden should get off to a good start, unless Switzerland can pull a similar-looking hand, and then they will have the advantage because they don't have the coin, and they get to snowball. But that is not a hand that snowballs anywhere at all, and the Peacekeeper possibly a clue to the speed of the deck.
Yeah, this is a problem. This is what I was talking about earlier, where a lot of the time, because the Paladin's curve can go so high, there are the odd games in that percentage amount of time where you just draw terribly for the opening, and combine that with the times your opponent actually draws well, it means that you can get snowballed pretty hard here.
And I'm not sure what Sweden will think there. I guess there's a discussion about consecration, but usually if it gets to turn 4 and your opponent is playing aggressive as well, everything's out of consecration range anyway, so there's no need to keep it. There is a sneakier quality in their deck, though.
Yeah, look at that, though. We can see Valfin Inquisitor, or well, Tidecaller, Coin, Inquisitor, Hero Power into War Leader.
Yeah.
Or it can just be Tidecaller into Coin, War Leader, then into Inquisitor. But yeah, this is looking pretty good for Powder, where Switzerland ended up with a Spike Ridge Steed for their trouble. And all of this just seems very, very slow.
Yeah, I think when your opponent doesn't do anything on turn 1, that is the green light for you to start going, okay, let's get stuff on the board before their turn 4, get it out of consecration range, if it's even in there to start with, and get a whole chunk of damage down, and then we'll worry about what to do later if we don't actually finish the job, because you've still got that mid to late game. You've got Ragnaros in your deck, we've seen that. You've got Tyrion almost certainly, Spike Ridge Steeds. There's plenty of ways to get those extra few damage through.
Yeah, these few early turns are going to be very important. They're going to be the difference between Powder snowballing and just winning this game off the back of this aggressive start, or him just like slipping a little bit, the board, you know, evening out, and then Switzerland can continue to battle into this game. He's just going to go for the tie caller. So imagine coin or wall leader is going to look pretty attractive here. And Bozo, head goes down for a second as he's like, wow, really? Spike Ridge Steed number 2 on turn 2?
Ow.
It's too much.
This does also keep Sweden's option open to some degree. If they wanted to next turn, I mean, I agree with you, it looks like they go on the war leader plan. But because they've kept their options open, they can also go Inquisitor, coin, make another dude, make another little paladin. A little paladin?
A little paladin.
Another little Murloc, and still get the double buff on this. It just means that they'd miss out on 1 point of damage. But in return for that 1 point of damage, they've got to make a much easier decision now because they've seen what's going on.
Yeah. I think the Valve play could be okay here.
Options.
Because there's nothing that really deals the 1 damage anyway to the tie caller if you want to trade.
And next turn, I mean, if your opponents have done this on the first 2 turns, what's their next turn? Probably Peacekeeper or Stonehill Defender. Neither of which are particularly terrifying.
And you're going to follow it with Wall Leader anyway, so...
That's what I mean, right? So you get through either of those 2 cards, and then sure, you're a little bit scared of Pyro Equality, but you're always scared of that. It's best to do it before they draw it.
Yep.
I do sometimes wonder with these teams if it's best not to have 4 top-class players on the team. I'm sure that's wrong, especially if they can organise themselves into a cohesive unit, but sometimes you just wonder how many voices in Powder's head telling him to do different things there.
Yeah.
Not to mention his teammates.
Probably a lot at this point. Powder chose not to use the coin there, which means he is going to be able to hold on to it, play the Wall Leader anyway next turn, and then hold the coin for, say, a Spike Ridge Steed.
Right. Looks like they're planning to do that on turn 5 now. I don't see any other reason particularly why they'd keep it that long, which means that they're going to be able to get an early Spike Ridge Steed, which is obviously a huge deal because it just gets around equality consecration by leaving something on the board.
Yeah, Consecrate can get some work done now, though, but I think getting the True Silver just locked in, getting the tempo advantage for the next turn is going to work out a little bit better over the course of the time here. Consecrate can always come down next turn, especially when it's more and more likely that you're going to see hero power this turn more than anything else. Like, Powder's not going to consecrate an empty board, and, you know, if you True Silvers, then that's not really developing onto the board either.
The fact he drew the second True Silver may tempt him into playing the first one now. Just get some damage done. The other
you want to go first one, go face, Lewin,
Yeah. No. Making a dude ready for that Spike Ridge Steed is probably more sensible, but it is a waste of almost an entire turn. Just get him. I don't want to encourage you.
Well, the problem is, like, making a dude for the Spike Ridge doesn't change much because either this board dies to Consecrate or a minion lives for Spike Ridge, right?
Sure.
There's one of those 2 things will happen, and an additional 1/1 won't change that outcome.
Sure.
So I wouldn't mind just getting 1 True Silver live here.
Yeah, I just think you might as well, but interested where they go. Of course, you still gain that 1 extra attack for your Tidecaller and the 1 from the dude if you play it, so that's 2 damage you're putting out there. But this is the best use of the mana, and you're not going to get both of them played. And that looks like Powder took the audible to me. Looks like they weren't sure between them. Rope started going. He just did what he wanted at the end of that, I feel.
Yeah, now Consecrate's going to blow this board out a little bit. The benefit here for Team Sweden is, though, there isn't going to be much development behind this. Valving can be played after the Consecrate, or before. But it's not going to be too much, really. And then, you know, Powder's slowly edging towards the turn where you can just hero power coin Spike Ridge onto a minion already and get that instant value, as opposed to having to fend off a board to do so.
Curator's looking good here, though, for Switzerland. When you get into these slow, grindy matches and you've both got mediocre hands, obviously the Curator's the one that not only puts the good card in your hand, but gets rid of them from your deck, and you pick up those little guys to back it up as well.
Not going to go for the Consecrate. Looks like with the True Silver equipped, Bozo just wants to say, you know what, I think I can get a stronger Consecrate, or I have to wait till I draw my Equality to get a full board clear. And he's just coming off the major threat here. There's only 2 1/1s available.
Yeah, but now he's allowed the Spike Ridge Steed to come down when he could have just cleared up all the minions and prevented this from happening. And even though it looks like he's managing to save his Consecration, what it has done is just given Sweden a way into this. Like, the Consecration would have borderline shut them out for a turn or two there.
Yeah, well, the problem now is, Bowser should be aware that the coin's in hand. So a lot of the time against Paladin, you try and clear the board going into turn 6 because of Spike Ridged. And now because coin's in hand, it means that, well, you've left minions on the board, you can coin out the Spike Ridged anyway. But Powder drawing Finja is just going to sit for just a minute. We've seen Team Sweden just discuss things quite a lot during this game specifically. But there's a, do I play Finja here just to get the value down? Or do I just coin Spike Ridge? I personally just like coin Spike Ridge. Just puts the most frustrating thing onto the board. Probably more frustrating than Finja just because of the death rattle.
Yeah, that's so interesting how Switzerland went with it there. And honestly, I think they've just given a get out of jail free card here to Sweden. Sweden may have an accident later on because of that. Because they will now have somebody in the team say there's definitely no Consecration in our opponent's hand.
Maybe it's something that not a lot of people talk about actually, where sometimes you can go too deep in the reads,
right,
when actually you kind of going to be punished a little bit later for thinking like that.
Yeah, this is where sometimes, just sometimes, it's better to have a mediocre player on your team of 4 superstars.
Yeah,
because it's possible they'll just not even consider there's a Consecration chilling there. So, True Silver would be okay here, but obviously getting that Finja down would be a priority as well. Kodo's a good way, obviously, to deal with the second half of the Spike Ridge Steed. I think sometimes the natural play is just a play, right? That's what they seem to be going for here.
Yeah, True Silver's just clean. And then, like you said, the Kodo can snipe the Spike Ridge. We can see that the Spike Ridge can be riding a Spike Ridge at this point going forward. So there is a chance that this just becomes a slightly bigger minion. But there is equality available, which is pretty key coming up for Powder here.
Yeah, equality into Kodo seems like it might be game-changing on the next turn. Although, again, Curator into either Drake or Ragnaros means there's still plenty of life left in this one.
Yeah, you probably go equality Finja though, right?
You probably do, yeah.
Kodo is just a 3-5 at that point.
Sure.
And there are a lot of decent targets for the Kodo later on, especially when there's potentially Aldor Peacekeeper in the deck.
Something we don't seem to see much anymore are the builds with double Spike Ridge and double Blessing of Kings. That was something like maybe 3 or 4
a whole lot of
ago.
buffing.
We saw a lot of buffs, and you had to get rid of every minion over and over. But that fad seems to have died down a little now.
I'm glad. That would have been a whole lot of buffing for a whole lot of nothing, in my opinion.
Wow.
That's good, wasn't it?
That was very good.
But yeah, it's a lot of time. You see how hard people play around Spike Ridge Steed. When you rely so heavily on those buffs, Paladin kind of struggles to stick minions to the board a lot of the time anyway. We see very often Spike Ridge is played on turn 8 when they can just hero power Spike Ridged. And hero powering into Bust of Kings, for example, just isn't that powerful overall.
Yeah, that build was okay for a while. Again, things were sticking for a while. And as soon as people realise, hang on, we've got to kill everything because people are starting to put too many buffs in their deck, it just becomes impossible. It's all right if you're doing it with Druid because you can't stop all of the stuff a lot of the time.
We see Curator come down now for Bozo. Means he's going to fill up his hand with quite high value minions. The Megasaur, the Drake, and the Finja. Means that he's going to be able to pretty much just cherry pick what kind of threat he wants for the rest of the game here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'll be scared of anything in particular from the other side. They haven't seen much of the faster stuff yet. So they might be a little bit scared of Pyro quality, but feel that Finja's fine here. I guess going into turn 8 isn't necessarily when you want to start loading up the ball with small Murlocs.
Should I?
Well,
Yeah.
he'll be playing Finja into his opponent's turn 8. So that seems better.
Sure.
You do have equality available as well, so Finja can get a guaranteed kill on something and then summon more minions potentially after a Drake turn. He knows there's a Drake there as well because of Curator, so...
Alright, let's see how he feels he's going to deal with it. He's going to do something soon. All right, just going to go with the straightforward board play, if you like, the natural play. No long-termness in this one other than just simple Hearthstone mechanics, get control of the board, and most of this doesn't die to Drake as well.
Yeah, he loses the 1/1s, but it's not really a big deal here. Interesting if Bowser actually even goes for Drake at this point.
Right.
Just because it does so little, and he has a Finger, he has Wally to to add to the Finger next turn anyway. Hydrologist got there as well, so he's got a lot of this Murloc synergy knocking around.
Yeah, still plenty of health, 19, only facing down 7. Paladin not renowned for its damage from hand. And they've had no Discover effect or anything like that, so there's going to be no Dino size, which I'm sure will disappoint you.
Dino size is alright.
There you go.
Put it in a deck yet.
You haven't?
No.
You will. Of course, when you've got the board in the Paladin mirror, you do things like disable your opponent's Totem. So that's just one card that isn't in Switzerland's hand for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. As long as your board is small enough, the time only makes it worse for you, for the most part. The only benefit is if there's like 3 minions on the board,
right,
and you need to put a taunt up, then it will technically soak those 3 minions, but looks like Primordial Drake is just going to be the play here, just as safe as it can be. It's going to be able to challenge these 2 minions that are left on the board as well, and they still don't kill it, so pretty decent play overall.
Ragnaros is probably not the play here. It's going to be really difficult for them to use its ability effectively. They do have the option to develop that Finger now with a good chance of backing it up with a quality later.
Should I?
Can also just start to make a big board with Finger, Vilefin, make another dude. Nice and wide. Plenty of choices, but I feel that the Ragnaros isn't the one that they'll go with. They've seen one Aldor.
Yeah, nothing lines up that well, right?
Right. It's one of those plays where they've got to think, okay, so it's not a good immediate play whatever we do. Which one of these cards do we want to save the longest, and which one might we as well use now and just get it over with? Sometimes doing nothing is the right play in that situation, but not here, because this is where they need to get the board one way or another in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, I just wonder how good like just Finger is. Just get it down. I'm going to go for Ragnaros instead, okay.
Wow, Ragnaros has 2 goes there, and that's the heal they were wanting.
Yeah, he's going to make this trade awkward indeed. Wow, dude.
Indeed, or instead, maybe.
Yeah. Well, if he puts the Steed onto the Drake, then he's going to be able to clear up the 2/6 pretty easily.
Drake just putting a dinosaur on its back and carrying it across the room.
It'd be the other way around.
A bit like casting.
The Drake rides the dinosaur, right?
Sure. That's just silly, though. That's just lazy.
It's just another dinosaur with wings. I mean, we're lazy. We get like cars to places, right? You've got your cart from yesterday.
Oh my god, don't bring the cart into this. All right. How often is equality played in this deck? Have you seen recently in the HCT stuff? It's obviously there's sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the more aggressive lists sometimes just run 1. It's
right,
just like a taunt buster sort of thing. But in general, a lot of decks are just playing 2 equalities. It's more common, I've seen, to actually see Pyromancer cut, as opposed to,
right,
you just cut 2 Pyromancers, have some more space in the deck, but keep the equalities, because you are still generating tokens, you are still playing Consecrates, you do plan on being ahead on board, so overall the actual equality can normally get a lot of work done.
Yeah, it's going to get some work done here. But the Ragnaros would be a nuisance, so maybe they'll choose not to go with that if they can find another route to kill this, like bump in with the Ragnaros into the Drake. Hope it heals itself.
Yeah, he can even go into the Ragnaros.
But then you true silver, sorry.
Yeah,
is that line of thought?
Yeah, just true silver it down.
And then hope it heals itself, maybe. It's a shame for them that they can't get rid of the Kodo in an effective manner. They can get rid of it, but not ideally. Or do they take the 1 in 3? And again, got to do their maths, got to work out, do we want a 1 in 3 here? Because the 1 in 3 looks really good if it hits.
I think they'll definitely try and kill this Drake this turn, because they can set up for equality into Drake of their own.
Right.
To just clear out the board, and to do that they need to get rid of this Death Rattle. They need to discover exactly what this secret is from Team Switzerland. If it's Redemption, if it's Getaway Kodo, they can plan around that sort of stuff.
If it's Redemption as well, they can bump the Kodo in and good things happen, but they're going with this line to get the Redemption on something small. And let's see if Powder got all the commands off.
Chose not to attack in.
Yep, that looks good. That way, took all the risk out of the situation, means that the Drake was going to be in the way, which means that the Ragdoros has more bites of the cherry to heal itself.
Yeah, if the Ragdoros went in, it would have meant that it would actually have killed itself off and not get that heal at the end of the turn. So, Team Sweden just taking this one slowly here so far.
They are, but Switzerland are building up that card advantage. So Sweden have managed to use the card in their hand to get this nice-looking board. Switzerland, however, have the other side of that. They've had the value on their side slightly, and they can now try to use that to snatch the board back and turn the whole game around.
Yeah, double rock pools here from Bozo. Does have War Leader as well, and Finder and the Megasaur. So a lot of overall Murloc synergy, but would much rather have seen those rock pools a little bit earlier on in this game and not quite this late.
Yeah, eyeing up the Consecration there, doesn't really line up that nicely to the eye. It does get rid of the Drake, but not a whole lot else. Which means they're going to have to play their War Leader. So this is their big push now. They're going to have a good go at taking over the board with all those extra cards. Let's see if this works out for them. At the moment, Sweden have no way of really clearing this up. Equality will obviously make a dent in it.
Yeah, even Tyron will help a little bit.
And this is where the power of Spite Ridge Steed is really obvious to everybody. If this was just a normal board of decent cards, you could clear it up, but the Spite Ridge Steed coming back as a 2/6 just gets in the way.
We can actually just tower him into True Silver down the Drake, and trade the 2/3/3s into the 2/6.
2/6, sure.
And you're left with 2 3/1s and a True Silver and a 3/7 taunt in the way at the end of the turn. That looks pretty solid to me.
Looks okay. I wonder if you are scared of the Megasaur. I know it's there, it's easy for us to say, but yeah, it is a big hand halfway through a deck. You can expect a Megasaur to be there.
The problem is what you're going to do about a Megasaur.
Sure.
Can't get to the Murlocs anyway, right?
Sure.
Should I?
Alright. Looks like that's where they're going to go. And now Megasaur plus other Murlocs is going to potentially be game-breaking here for Switzerland.
That's kind of quality there.
Pretty sure they're just working out what to buff with the Rockpool Hunter, if at all, here.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll have any read at all on the equality of the opposing hand. Doubt it. And again, Switzerland just getting, over the period of the game, just a little bit more value out of their cards than Sweden have, has left them in this position. Holding on to the Consecration. Didn't do a whole lot when they used it, in fairness. Cleared up a little bit, but...
Yeah, didn't actually manage too much. But Sweden, although they're a little bit down on resources compared to Switzerland here, they do have a True Silver equipped. They have got more minions onto the board. This time is a pain to deal with overall. So not looking too terrible. You just got to keep an eye on this Ragnaros though in Bozo's hand. That's going to be pretty big impact later in the game.
Okay, so they're choosing to keep their Megasaur to go this route, which means that next turn they're going to have a whole bunch of Murlocs, depending, on whether Sweden could pick up the Consecration.
Yeah, Switzerland just going and making it for the push now. This Megasaur could be huge and potentially game-ending next turn, but we can see Tyrion has been drawn. So Tyrion and Hydrologist can happen. This time can get cleared up by the 3/3 Kodo and the True Silver Champion. They're still going to leave a lot of power on the board.
Yeah, I wonder if you have to equality here. It doesn't really do much because of the War Leader just play into Consecration coming forward, just to get rid of 2 of the things instead of 1. It's just not what you wanted from your equality though when you were a young boy.
Yeah.
Starting out with your equality in life, looking forward to it growing and doing stuff for you, and then it's in this situation.
Yeah, turns out some things aren't equal. And yeah, War Leader's one of them.
See if Hydrologist can solve the problem. I'm not quite sure how, though. Getaway Kodo. Ugh. Every decision Sweden has had in this game has just been really difficult. Right from turn one, whether to use the coin or not.
They go for the Getaway Kodo. They are going to clear up the Tarim and just try and hide behind Tyrion as much as possible. This Megastore, though, could be absolutely huge. Now there's a choice between Tyrion.
Yeah, you'd rather be in the situation of Switzerland, I think, right now, said the genius. With a bigger board, more cards in hand, and 1-0 up.
And a lot of Murlocs.
And a lot of Murlocs.
I wonder.
Well, so it looks like we're going to get some Megastore action. I think that Switzerland can happily conclude that if Sweden had the board clear, they would have used it last turn, so they can afford to go wide here.
Divine Shield's not bad.
It really isn't bad.
And you can trade away a lot of these minions, or at least trade with a lot of these minions and keep them, should I say.
Yeah, one of the best ways to deal with Divine Shields is use your own Divine Shields. And how do they intend to deal with this Tyrion?
I'm gonna go for the equality. It's interesting.
That seems
overkill.
Yeah, it doesn't seem necessary. You just give it a couple of your shields, surely. They're actually going to push face. Because they want to prevent the shield from doing that, yeah. And Sweden just again, this situation is a bit more clear because they're running out of options now. It's just not very good for them.
Yeah, and what's cool there for Bozo is that he kept the Divine Shield on the Wall Leader.
Right.
And if it's going to be killed off, it probably requires the hit from the Hydrologist plus the weapon.
Right.
So then he's kind of like gained 4 attack because he knows his opponent's going to make the trades for him.
Yeah, he's done the 4 damage, plus the opponent has to make the trade, plus that means the Megastore is going to live as well. Yeah, sounds good to me.
I think that both players have had Finger for a long time and neither of them have been played.
Interesting, isn't it? Because it looked like Sweden very early on, if they'd got that Finger down, had a chance to make a bit of an impact on the board, especially with Switzerland looking like they didn't have Consecration in hand.
Yeah.
But it's just sat there, and Switzerland have managed then to exert enough pressure that the Finger just hasn't been an option. And now it's only being played because there's nothing better to do, not because they particularly want it right now.
Okay, so there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage and a Tyrion available. So Switzerland can probably get away with just dropping Tyrion this turn, saying, I can just go face, or at least settle within 5 damage of lethal. And say, yeah, let's go.
Get rid of the 1-1 if they do their numbers, just to make sure that the Divine Shield is actually harder to proc. But everything else might go face. They've got to think about whether to trade this in. That's going to be the hard decision. Because Ashbringer does 5, I'd be very tempted just to lob this into the face as well. But I totally understand if they want to trade it. This is where you go through every card in Hearthstone and work out which is the one that beats you that you've not heard of.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind the trade here. Ashbringer does 5 anyway. You're probably going to have something survive, more than likely. The trade makes it more than, even more likely that something will survive. And there's the 2 damage you need, plus Ashbringer to get through.
Yeah, cards like Forbidden Healing are the cards that we're going through their mind right now.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best thing? And if they do the Forbidden Healing for 20, maybe we just trade. But going face, I mean, whatever they've done there, I was going to say, I think that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Your win.
Yeah, Powder gives it up, and Switzerland, who haven't got a win yet in Hearthstone Global Games, but seem very determined to do so. There's definitely a lot of excitement on their faces today. 2-0 now, 1 game away from beating one of the most stacked teams in the whole of the tournament.
Yeah, you'd say so. And yeah, kind of crazy. They are just on the verge of getting their first win. 2-0 up versus Sweden is nothing to be sniffed at, but they've still got a couple more games potentially to play out. But yeah, that was a pretty solid one. You saw Sweden taking their time over a lot of those turns, but it just wasn't to be. The next game we've got coming up is going to, in fact, be Ostkaka versus Dark. We've had Powder versus Bozo already. We'll get that changed and fixed for you. And I believe we have the classes that they're actually going to be playing somewhere.
Ostkaka versus Dark. We do indeed have those. Thank you,
Shaman
guys.
Mirror.
It's going to be Shaman versus Shaman.
It's like the 3rd or 4th Shaman Mirror we've cast during the past day and a half of global games. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they've almost all been just Evolve versus Evolve token as well.
Yep.
So assuming that's going to happen again, that's another matchup where I feel it's a big advantage to go first.
Sure.
Because you get to respond with your stuff and see
Yeah.
going.
One of the good plays you can do is if you're second, you can actually coin Jade Claws.
Right.
And then actually play a 1-drop after that.
Right.
So you can fill out your curve reasonably well, even if you coin into an overload card. But yeah, I think going first is pretty nice. Because then the onus is on your opponent a lot of the time to kind of wait and then go for a turn 5 Doppelgangster coin Evolve. But by holding that holding that coin on for so long, it means that you do kind of stay ahead as the player who goes first, as opposed to the player who goes second, using the coin to catch up quite early on.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting how that. I mean, we're assuming that's going to happen. We might see a spanner
Me.
in the works.
There you go.
Or the face. Like a Nazoth Shaman we've seen a a lot of Jade Shamans still around, although the win rate of Jade Shaman seems to be just plummeting at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit, and there was even seen, like Kranich's list, which was just, Bloodlust Shaman more than anything. It had some elementals in it. It had Fire Elemental, Kalimos as well, and 2 Hammer of Twilights. Just to battle for that mid game a little bit stronger there. And we see Ostkaka on the Control Shaman. Probably Nazoth because there's a Cairn available. But Dark on the Evolve Shaman with that Patches, Bloodlust, Evolve, all giving it away exactly what this deck's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be full mulligan Shaman, I predict. You can keep the Evolve in some circumstances, I feel. Not just for the Doppelgangsters, but just to make things better for yourselves. But yeah, they're going to want something to do. And there's some stuff to do now.
Yeah, Flame Tongue's definitely not bad. And yeah, I think in this matchup you throw away the Evolve, because if you think it's the mirror, often Evolve early on isn't good enough. You'll get run over by them just having minions or stuff to do early on. So yeah, not too much of a surprise here.
Ostkaka, on the other hand, he's going to have to get rid of all of this almost certainly. And like you say, it's almost certainly Nazoth as well. Cairn is a card you very rarely play these days just for the Cairn value. Okay, keeping the Mana Tide just to purify that draw, I guess.
Yeah, I imagine Mana Tide's one of the lowest curve cards in the deck, to be honest. So although it looks strange to keep a 3-drop, it means that if it's one of your lowest curves, then it's the start of your deck, right? You are always going to press Hero Power turn 2. You're always passing turn 1. Right. So yeah, Mana Tide, not too bad here.
Just letting out a maniacal cackle there as the Bloodhoof just returns to hand. It comes back to life when it dies. It comes back to life when you mulligan it away.
His son comes back.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, Bane Bloodhoof is the second part.
Cool.
Because Ken, in the story, fought Garrosh for the control of the Horde.
Oh, that's where they get a different entry.
It is. And Garrosh actually poisoned his weapon, which was how he beat Ken in a one-on-one. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Spoilers don't count when it's like it happened years ago.
Sure.
But yeah, which is why Bane comes back after Bloodhoof dies and Bloodhoof doesn't come back because he's dead.
Does he sort it out?
He does actually, yeah. Well, Garrosh gets wrecked basically by Thrall, believe it or not.
Ah. See the things you learn
when you
whilst waiting for rope turn 1.
Yeah.
I like the lore, just don't tell Sottle.
Sol loves lore. Honestly, Sol's been dropping the lore bombs now and again, especially during HCT. And he continues to pretend like he doesn't love it, but he does really.
Yeah, we all know Sottle just loves the roleplay.
He does.
All right. Nothing for Sweden to do as predicted. Just going to lower the cost of these things from below. Card that is close to my heart, because it's one of the few times I can get away with saying that you're going to lower the cost of the things and actually be correct.
Yeah, as I said, I imagine this is a fairly common outcome with this deck from Team Sweden, is that Hero Power on turn 2 happens almost all the time.
And the Taunt Totem's good, right? Because that means they can protect their Mana Tide if it doesn't get blown up. And really, will Dark play a Jade and then take down the Totem? He may.
I just coin out Mana Tide. I don't know. It's not terrible. If your opponent's Hero Powering on 2, then it means that they're probably not got much to do at all going forward. And even if you think it's Evolve Shaman, it's not like they run Feral Spirit most of the time, so I don't mind the Mana Tide here.
This is the second game out of this match where some of the players will not have a clue what deck their opponent's playing.
It's true. So when any of these are the cards that are played that aren't Mana Tide, They probably have a pretty good idea. Thing from below, I don't know. Because what you've got to imagine as well is the further the game goes on, the less and less likely that Osaka wouldn't have something to do.
Right.
You know, there's so many low drops in the Evolved Shaman list that even drawing badly, you're going to draw one or two of them,
Sure.
you know, turn 4 or 5 in the game.
Well, that used to be how you distinguished very aggressive Shaman from the mid-range back when everybody played a Shaman of some sort. If they hadn't done anything by the end of turn 2, even though they'd got all the same cards in their deck to some extent, you go, well, actually, the maths just says they're probably the mid-range now.
Flametongue going to get some good value here if this Corsair comes down. It is going to. This is nice as well, putting the Corsair in the way of the Flametongue so that the Manatide isn't like a damage threat, and the Corsair is. Because Manatide's just a threat in itself for the resources it can gain. But now there's actually a higher attacking minion on the board, as well as Patch, as well as Flametongue, and then Manatide is just chilling on the side, drawing a card every turn.
Yeah, you want that to be the last thing to be killed, and you also want to give your opponent just difficult choices as to what to go for. Like, which one of these things do you kill? Well, it's not Patches, because unless it's easy. But all the others are a nuisance. You probably have to kill the Flametongue. Then the Manatide lives another turn.
That's how tricky these tomes can get now that there's 3/0/3 power tomes in Shaman.
Yeah, 3 being a very important health number right now because Consecration is a card, because Volcanic Potion is a card. 3 seems a good amount of health to have.
Yep. Tidal Surge on the Flametongue feels kind of bad because you don't get the benefit from the healing.
Yeah, you're in no hurry, I don't think, to stop this beatdown. I mean, obviously you need to stop it reasonably soon, but presumably you have 4 AoE spells in your deck here.
Yeah, the problem is, are you okay just passing and taking 6 to face?
I think you have to deal with the Manatide, personally. But then you've got to realise, can I deal with this Flametongue ever? But, yeah, you can take a bit of damage. You're going to have a lot of healing in your deck. You're okay for now. I think for now, though, changes pretty soon. Because when you get into Bloodlust territory and 4 or 5 minions on board, you can die really, really fast.
Yeah, Dark can even just play into the Manatide if he really wants here and just say, well, took you long enough and you just use Tidal Surge on that Manatide. Can you clear another one and I'll still hit you for 6? Then he can build into the Aya for the turn. Like, next turn he can build into, you know, using the Jade Lightning or the second Flametongue and then go into Aya. And then very suddenly this just starts to snowball out of control.
Also tempting just to go for maximum stuff, which is hero power and another Flametongue, which starts to set up a terrifying Bloodlust, but it also leaves yourself open to Lightning Storm. So Bloodcell Corsair and Manatide would be the way to put the stuff down if you wanted to this time. And that's what they're going to do. Whether they play the Bloodcell or not, they might not, given they know there's going to be weapons at some point.
Yeah, so if he pushes 6, that's 24, then it'll be...
Okay.
Yeah, he's I think a tiny bit short with Bloodlust next turn.
15, 16, 19, 22 plus the Flametongue isn't enough mana. It's chat lethal.
Yep, so he's not quite there, but he's very, very, very close. And something you've got to consider, if you put your opponent low enough and you do have Jade Lightning, you do have Jade Claws in hand, that is just burst from hand. Jade Lightning without worrying about taunts, of course, a little bit better. But look, Flametongue, Jade Lightning, Jade Claws, all cards that can create damage out of nowhere for this deck.
And there's not, I mean, there's things that Sweden can do about it. There's not a whole lot they can do to really stop this. Just start making some taunts. The other option is, of course, to hex the Flametongue. Now they've got to just ignore Manatides. That's another problem they have. Like, Manatide Totem is doing a lot of damage, but it's not actually killing you now. You have a deck that if it doesn't die now, actually has a chance of surviving for later.
Yeah, the problem is if you just ignore the Manatide, then your opponent's just going to draw more Bloodlusts, and then you just die anyway.
Yep.
This is very, very tricky, to be honest. With no Volcano, no Lightning Storm, this board is kind of running away with itself at this point.
Yeah, they're just going to take rid of the Flametongue now. Get the Taunt Totem. That'd be a welcome to health saved as well. And now it's Switzerland's turn to have to just consider how much do we want to commit to this board. The answer is probably a lot. We've got loads of cards, the Manatide's not being dealt with, so They can be a little bit loose with their cards because they're just going to have more cards.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe they just don't panic here. Usually the question of if you Bloodlust now, same with Savage Roar, will it do the maximum now? You were talking about this before one time. But if you do it now, it might not even be the best you can do with it.
Yeah, as I said though, there is Flame Tongue, Jade Claws, Jade Lightning, which is a lot of damage from hand. So maybe you just cash in this damage before there are big taunts down.
Sure.
Just get the damage to face done and then rely on Jade Lightning. Or even just Flame Tongue to buff the minions enough to trade through any taunts that come down from Ostkaka here.
Yeah, this is going to push something like 15 to face, I believe, if they do the Bloodlust. So Sweden will be on 9 and have the dual issue to worry about of the board still being there and actually having to heal up because they will be aware that playing a taunt might not cut it, especially if there's a second Bloodlust.
Yeah, this just isn't safe at all, and Ostkaka doesn't even have that many options. He only has access to one taunt. He can play 2 taunts this turn. He can play Hot Spring and the thing from below. But the worry to bear in mind, not that there's a lot. Excuse me, not that there's a lot you can do about it, but devolve.
Right.
It's just, oh, okay, 2 taunts devolve. Game.
Right.
And you're like, no. So it's a little bit scary. Especially with this, there can even just be like Flame Tongue, Jade Claws, hero power this turn. Potentially even just Maelstrom. And then just really push your opponent low enough that Jade Lightning always gets you there.
Interesting. How do they even go about doing it? Just Thing from below and Hot Spring Guardian. Hope
I think they have to
more
and just
stuff.
cross their fingers, yeah. It's probably the conversation Ostkaka's having with Team Sweden now. It's like, guys, there's just not much we can do. It's better to have multiple taunts on the board to try and fend off this aggression. It looks like he's going to go for it. Just heal for a bit as well.
Yeah, there just comes a point where you can't play around everything. When you reach that point, you can then make decisions a lot more easy for yourselves. Like, okay, well, we can't play around this anyway, so what's the best play? And this is it. This is the one that puts an extra 9 health on the board, heals you up.
Yeah,
Gives you a
Flame Tongue
chance.
does so much work now.
Yeah, Ostkaka threw his hands in the air the second that card was played reasonably quickly. He's like, they've got it.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
Okay. And this is what you were talking about at the start of the game. With the Mana Tides being put on the edge, it's still going to be there. It's going to get buffed and it's still going to be a threat going on.
Yeah, it's just an absolute nightmare here for Ostkaka. Can't clear it up. Not had any AoE really available to him. Just that Tidal Surge earlier, which helped a little bit, but not enough.
And yeah, surely this is just Maelstrom Portal, trade in. Presumably go face. I guess one of the questions is whether you put a Jade Claws into the face while you can here actually rather than play another dude.
Yeah, I think you just take all the damage you can get.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Okay. So White Eyes is this turn's attempt to heal if you want it. There is, of course, that Ooze. That does heal you up slightly. And a Hex for the Flame Tongue. It's not going to be particularly helpful, but maybe it's all they've got.
Yeah, the problem is with the Hex, it means that you can't do much else that turn. You can ooze away the weapon, only gaining 2 though. It's a 4 damage swing. But is it going to be enough? It's going to be... It's going to go for the Flame Tongue kill. Or at least the Flame Tongue Hex. Yeah, he's just going to go for the ooze, gain as much as possible. It's going to be on 9. Evolve is available, so there can just be 3 damage here.
And I've just been working this out on the fly, which hence my silence the last turn or two, because Switzerland qualifying wasn't on my radar at all the way this group is. But if they win 3-0, I believe then they do have some sort of chance of still going through.
Madness. Absolute madness.
Like, it's just not, I did a lot of calculations about this group, I promise you. Gave up, so it's all in the melting pot. But Switzerland going through was not quite on my radar. But watching their reactions, it suddenly dawned on me, yeah, they're still in this tournament.
Yeah, and there's a devolve as well, which means any taunts that can come down this turn, Switzerland can just devolve away more than likely. And then, you know, Jade Lightning's available. Aya's on the board now to create more Jades. It's even just an evolve on their end of the board. So Dark in a very, very strong position indeed. Whereas Ostkaka, I mean, Nazoth doing nothing. Ken not good enough. White Eyes soaks the Aya. But then there's what, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 damage. It's just a 1 damage requirement. Just on board from Team Switzerland to take the win if it's just going to be White Eyes this turn, and I don't see how it can't not be.
Yeah, and every turn we're looking at this saying, well, how can they survive one more turn? But at no point are we looking at how can they win this game of Hearthstone. I mean, getting 2 White Eyes down and some Storm Guardians is how they get there. But
yeah,
that's
is
just
that
nowhere near.
Happen,
right. There's these devolves, there's evolves, if they even need them, there's stuff going to face. All hell's basically broken loose on this side of the board.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it, and that should just be game here, because there is the Jade Lightning. This Evolved deck does not run many direct damage spells, but Jade Lightning are the 2 it does, an absolutely amazingly powerful card. And that's going to be the series. Switzerland taking a 3-0 win over Team Sweden, their first win of this tournament, and over Sweden at that. Strong plays all around, and I think overall just stronger decks. I think the like the N'Zoth Shaman list just isn't quite there at the moment. It was great early on, but when you look at the power of this Evolved Shaman, I struggle to even want to play a different Shaman deck than that.
That is harsh. Doesn't get dark in Sweden at this time of year, but they'll be scared of the dark tonight.
Wow, how long did you plan that one for?
About 30 seconds.
Yeah, so we see how this series went. It's just Ray, Bozo, and Dark taking it. Ray and Dark currently new teammates. Pekka and Sho not playing for their respective teams, but still no doubt helping in the team communication. So yeah, Switzerland on the board now, and again, this is just the nature of round robin across such a large group, is that you can go 0-3, you can get a win.
Right.
And because this group is one of the more mixed bags in terms of there's a huge middle portion of the group in terms of scores, it means that, Switzerland aren't necessarily just straight up out at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking through it, like I said, that's not what I calculated before, so maybe a mistake. But, yeah, Switzerland play Brazil next week. If Brazil lose today, they'll have lost to Switzerland. They'll be down to 2 and 3. I think that means Switzerland are still in this.
Crazy.
From nowhere.
Crazy.
Learning from Romania, learning from Greece.
I was going to say, very similar to Greece and Romania. Greece especially, we talked to those guys yesterday, and they were very much like, oh yeah, we felt terrible going, like, opening up the matches like 0-1, 0-2. Definitely not what's expected of them, because we hyped up Greece quite a lot as a very strong region. But they managed to do it. They managed to bring it back. And again, it's round robin. Every single team in a group plays every other team. So there's plenty of matches going on. I believe we can check in with Team Switzerland and see what they've got to say about this match. Hello, Ray. How are you doing?
I'm good. And you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. What does it feel like to get such a convincing win against Team Sweden? The build-up of a lot of very, very high, profile pro players, and you just swept them aside like they were nothing today.
I mean, it was our first win, and yeah, we were hoping for this win. We didn't want to go for like 0-5.
Right. Yeah.
So it's cool. It's cool.
I've just been checking on the flight. Can you guys still qualify? Is that if you win again next week against Brazil?
We wanted to do the match after this match.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know. I think if we go 3-0, there's a way, I guess.
Yeah. I think if Brazil lose to Bulgaria, that will help you a lot. But again, I'll check that out between matches. So, yeah.
Yeah, it could be pretty good. And also the Hunter list you were playing. What made you bring this list? And did you think it was going to take the win? Because Hunter's a deck that maybe under Warlock has been dropped off more than most.
I tried it a lot with Dark, and I found out it's really, really strong against Aggro Druid and like 50-50 versus Jade Druid, and very, very strong against the Good Mage and Secret Mage and so on. So I tried to bring something like that, classic Secret Mage, Secret Hunter, sorry.
And how is that working out with Dark? Obviously, you guys joining a team together now. You getting to Legend so early this month. Is that helping you both?
Yeah. I mean, we're working a lot together, and let's see what the future brings.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got confidence. It was a great showing today, and we'll let you go and celebrate getting a win on the board. So good luck in the rest of the tournament, Ray. We'll no doubt be speaking to you very soon.
Yeah, thanks. Goodbye.
Thank you. So yeah, nice to see just some thought behind the Hunter, just saying like, yeah, we're going to bring it, we've tested it out, it's got good matches up against, to be honest, the decks he listed were a lot of the decks we've seen in global games so far, so not too bad at all.
Yeah, we have seen the same decks quite a lot over the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's almost like, even though the main meta hasn't stabilised at all in Conquest, in this event it's somehow stabilised into 3 or 4 decks.
Yeah, and even this one got a little bit close because that double mark of the Lotus opened up a lot of damage, but wouldn't have been lethal next turn anyway. But Unleash the Hound, the Huffer, the Cat Trick finally coming into play means that with the help of a kill command, that was going to be game. You look at the happiness of Ray there, like, yes, okay, 1-0 against Team Sweden. He said right then, you know, we felt we needed to 3-0 this to have any form of chance, and they did manage it. This was a long one.
This was a long one because Sweden actually got a hand. Switzerland there not using that consecration early to clear the board allowed Sweden to get a spiked ridge and some board presence, but Switzerland just seemed to overwhelm them with card advantage later on.
Yeah, and this just went on for a little bit of a while, and again, just kind of interesting that both Finges just didn't end up doing too much. But this Divine Shield was absolutely huge here. If this was plus health, it wouldn't have mattered as much. If it was plus attack, you know, similar. But the Divine Shield just meant that, yes, you clear a Tyrion with multiple Murlocs and just retain the Murlocs all over the board. So that was absolutely huge.
Another heavy draw for Sweden, which oddly enough, when you play heavy decks can happen. Ostkaka even kept the Manatide Totem to try and purify that draw a little bit later on. Just couldn't withstand this onslaught from the Token Shaman though.
Yeah, it's just the power of the deck. You do a lot of nothing a lot of the time and early on, but you just end up getting there. Bloodlust can push for so much damage, and then the Jade Lightning is just, you know, the final straw basically that allows you to just kind of ignore those taunts and finish it up no matter what. Check out what the group looks like now, but as we said, we've got 2 matches from the group overall. Bulgaria and Brazil are going to be playing a little bit later today, so that match is going to be very important. But Switzerland still currently at the bottom, but as we can see, if Brazil lose, they'll go 2-2. If Switzerland then win the next game, they'll go 2-3.
And then one of China and Indonesia qualifies.
Exactly. Then you've got to look at all the scores looking a little bit closer. But yeah, that is going to be this match for now. We're going to go to a short break. But coming up, we've got Czech Republic versus Germany. Going to be an absolute slobber knocker, so don't go anywhere.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.